but due to political considerations, he was released. In the case of Nnamdi Kanu, I believe he is not supposed to be in prison. I give reasons for that. Whatever you will accuse Nnamdi Kanu to have done, Igboho did worse than that. Today, he's a free man. Whatever you will accuse Nnamdi Kanu to have done, Sheikh Zazaki did worse than that. He is a free man. Zazaki from the north, Igboho from southwest. Then why is Nnamdi Kanu in prison? That's why one of the respected traditional rulers, in the presence of President Tinubu and other traditional rulers, he said, he did mention this, and I was very happy. I can't remember his name again. And that is the kind of leader that we need in this country, to tell authority the truth. Whatever you are accusing, he said that the Igboho and Nnamdi Kanu, they are the same. They are doing the same. They did the same thing. But I believe that that Nnamdi Kanu has not committed any offense. He is there probably because he's an Igbo man. And if this country has to move forward, we have to be treated equally. And if there's no equal treatment to all Nigerians, there can never be peace. We need justice. Is that justice that, yes, that if you claim that Nnamdi Kanu, yes, erred, and Igboho, Agzazaki, they also erred, they were forgiven. So Nnamdi Kanu should also be forgiven, or clemency, since there's a court pronouncement now. But we all know in Nigeria that the judiciary is the most corrupt institution we have, followed by higher institutions of learning. The most corrupt institution is the judiciary, followed by higher institutions of learning in Nigeria. So there's nothing good that can come from the judiciary. They take orders from the presidency, including...
Are you saying from a position of information or data available to you, or just your perception?
No, it's not my perception. There was a data that was released by one of statistics that was carried out, and the data was released, and it accused the judiciary to be the most corrupt, followed by the media. I see the judiciary, I think judiciary first, then high institution of learning, or high institutions of learning, then judiciary. Because, although when it comes to being irresponsible, the high institutions of learning, the lecturers are the most irresponsible.
Why do you say so?
You see, 65 years, 60 years old lecturers sleeping with 16, 17 years old girls. I'll give you a specific example. The Faculty of Education in Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria. I want to write to NUC to scrap the entire faculty, because the majority of the lecturers there are randy lecturers, very irresponsible. I met with the head of department in the Department of Library and Information Science, Dr. Habibu. I told him, I don't want to mention the name of the lecturer since he's not here to defend himself. He just left the office of dean, the former dean of the Faculty of Education. He said, ladies have been complaining about this dean. He is sleeping around with young ladies, young to be his granddaughters. Talk to him. We cannot tolerate this again. Then he sent one of his boys, who is the PG coordinator in the department, told me that you will not graduate. And true to his word, I have not been able to graduate. I did my defense. They asked me to do corrections. I've done corrections. They are not looking at it. So, and it's not that, the postgraduate studies, it's not like the first degree where you go to class, you write exams. They are not looking at my work. For years, at first, I started a research on information management system for access and tracking of information on kidnapping. I wrote to chapter 3, spent a lot of money, met security agents, got data, did that, he changed the topic. The topic that he approved, that was Professor Muhammad Zakari in the Department of Library and Information Science. He changed the topic. Gave me another topic, I wrote chapter 3, he changed the topic. Wrote chapter 3, another topic again, he changed the topic.
All right, let's return to Nnamdi Kanu. What was your experience with him? What areas did you discuss?
Yes. First, what he said to me, he was very happy. And he was in a very good spirit. He was not in any way disturbed. That shows the character of the man we are talking about. He was very strong. And when he was about to be brought out, I saw when the prisoners heard, they lined up to see their hero, to see a man that is very courageous. He is in a very high spirit. And I told him that we are strongly behind him because that Nigeria needs him. And we believe he will be released very soon so that we can work together to see that Nigeria get to the place where we all desire. Because, you see, anybody in his right senses will agitate for what Nnamdi Kanu is agitating for. Why? Treat us equally. It's not an offense. If you are not treating us equally, let us leave. So what is an offense in this? Treat us equally. If you are not treating us equally, let us leave. We can stay on our own. And then you are saying that no, of course he has to agitate for that. This is my own personal view now. If I see any Igbo man campaigning or supporting the APC, my view is that he is either a coward or a hypocrite. If you cannot be a courageous Igbo man, you see, the Igbo people are blessed with courage, but that does not mean that you don't have cowards among them, because you cannot have people, no matter how strong they are, you still have weak ones among them. Yes, the cowards among them are the ones who are supporting APC. Why are you supporting APC? Is it because when I was in DSS custody, the majority of the people there were Igbos, Kanuri. The majority, and around my cell were Igbos. All of them, they say they are IPOB. Let me tell you what it means. Once you have problem with anybody, that's what the DSS. You see, as a matter of fact, I have called on President Tinubu to make the DSS a department of the Nigerian police force. The only thing they do very well, which is why the politicians are keeping them, is to fight or to humiliate perceived enemies of the politicians. That's the only thing they do.
We'll go to that when we talk about the DSS. We'll return to that. Let's look at who authorized their visit. Was there anybody that facilitated their visit from high up there? Because we know that you don't just walk into prison facilities to see anybody, especially for someone like Nnamdi Kanu.
I want to let you know that I am the Nans president. I mobilized there. If they had not allowed me, at first they resisted. I would have remained there. I'll barricade the road. That was my intention of going to Sokoto. You can't expect me to leave Abuja for Sokoto and you don't allow me. I made it clear to the person, to them there. You either allow me or nobody, or you also arrest me and keep me with him. So I made up my mind. That was why when I was going, I didn't go with my car. I didn't go with luggages. I went with 2 clothes so that in preparation for my arrest. And when they try to say that no, it is weekdays, that you see Nnamdi Kanu only on weekends, I said I'm not aware of that. Why? Because there is no law that prohibits one from seeing anybody that is imprisoned. Since I know that, I made up my mind that these people, I know they are lawless. Most of the security agencies, with the exception of the military, that I don't really have anything to hold against them, all other security agencies, they are very lawless. Once they have opportunity, they use the power given to them by the Constitution. They misabuse the power and to humiliate innocent citizens. So I'm ready to always resist that. I made up my mind I was going to see him, and it's either I see him or they will arrest me, because I will challenge them. I'll still go and see him again after Salah.
All right. Why with him? Did he tell you anything in terms of your discussion, anything that shocked you, like maybe how he's being treated in the prison?
No, he's not being treated badly. As a matter of fact, they respect him, because I see the kind of courtesy given to him. They talk to him respectfully. That is the prison warders or whatever you call them. They talk to him respectfully. The only thing he showed me was that the judgments that freed him before, and how it is illegal for you to try somebody on the same offense which has been set free before. And he showed me constitutional provisions to support his claim that what they are doing is illegal. They do not have any powers. They don't have anything that is backed by law for them to retry him over what he has been already freed in the courts. And that he also showed me judgment that the court gave for him to be paid certain amount of money for the persecution which he went through. I saw all of those documents with him. He showed me relevant provisions of the Constitution and the offenses they are trying him, and how it is not in line with the laws of the country.
All right, let's move on. I don't know whether you shared with Kanu why he sacked his lawyers, and whether he's been able to re-engage lawyers. If not, how does he intend to pursue his appeal?
Well, even though we didn't discuss that, but he didn't sack them. What happened was that he only relieved them because he saw that it was not a case of that the law was being considered. And you know, lawyers, they discuss based on law and evidence. So when he saw that it was just political persecution, so he realized that there was no need for him to engage lawyers, because there was nothing like, the law was not involved in deciding his own case. So that was a smart move by Nnamdi Kanu, because if law was involved, yes, he would have allowed his lawyers to continue. He didn't sack them. They are still his friends, and he holds them in high esteem.
All right, let's look at, some people are saying Kanu's case is being dangled like a bargaining chip for 2027. What do you have to say about this?
Yes, I agree with those who are saying that. But the truth of the matter is that even with what is going on, the campaign of governors into APC, the presidency, President Tinubu, per se, knows that there's no way he's going to win votes in the southeast if he doesn't release Nnamdi Kanu. So he's playing his card very well to see that maybe close to the election, Nnamdi Kanu will be released, and if maybe, and then so that he can talk to the people, because as it is today, a lot of people are loyal to him. I know that, because during the protest, when we protested before the judgment for him to be released, while the protest was going on, police came, they were throwing tear gas and started shooting at us directly. So we dispersed. All my friends ran away, and I got to a junction where I became afraid, because people were gathered there, and at that time because I still know that those people who abducted me are still trailing me to see how they can still hurt me. So I was alone. So I was afraid. Some guys came to me and said, "Oh, this is Comrade Atiku, the Nans president, who has been fighting for Nnamdi Kanu." I said, "Come, let's go." They took me. I said, "I don't know them." Later I realized these are able guys. They were, in short, one, because my phone was not even with me. And I told one of them, he gave me his phone. And they provided security for me. They say, "You are a great man. We thank you. We appreciate what you are doing." So that shows that people love Nnamdi Kanu. And I now told them, "Why are you people not protesting with us?" Because it was around down area one, where if you are going to around that legislative quarters, where they sell spare parts around there. I've forgotten the name. Apple, thank you very much. Say, why are people not joining? We shouldn't run from this police. Once they go, we should come back. Saying, the reason why we are being careful is that these people are heartless. That these our shops now will be demolished if we join this protest, because they know the majority of us are Igbos. I said, what kind of humiliation is this? Did they create themselves as Igbos? Say they know majority of us here are Igbos. Once we join this protest, they will demolish our shops. That's why we are being careful. We cannot do what people are doing. To them, they think I'm Hausa. He said, you are Hausa now. They will release you, and they won't harm you. But for us, if we do anything, our source of livelihood is gone.
Somebody is tempted to ask, what is your attachment to Nnamdi Kanu?
You see, whenever you are blessed, people want to be like Nnamdi Kanu. You see, it's not by power, it's God's favor for people to have confidence in you, for people to love you. This is what the politicians want. They cannot have it. When he speaks to the people, they listen. Anywhere he comes, he has this charisma that people want to listen to him and obey him. And he has, with that, of course, he will have many enemies. With that alone, that blessing from God alone attracts enmity. And that's why the powerful ones who want to control the people, the kind of influence he has. He's not forcing people. If Nnamdi Kanu says now, I think I want you to start trekking from Abuja to Sokoto, I'll start trekking. He's not using anything. I'll start trekking, I'll start going. So that's the kind of influence he has of people. And that is why they are afraid and they have kept him in prison.
Let's talk about your ordeal with the DSS. Have the security agencies opened investigations on the matter concerning your abduction, and how far has the matter gone?
I wrote to the DGDSS. I have copies. I have copies here. I think it's even on my file here. I wrote to the DGDSS